Leigh, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Leigh, in your first book, Be Bold Today, you share that boldness isn't about being fearless, it's about acting despite fear, which I absolutely love.
Yeah,
How did you first learn to make peace with fear rather than fight it?
I think sometimes we're taught to fear certain things, like whether it's, fire or, watch out, you might get hurt, those types of things. And those are good things to fear, like in the sense of being safe. But when I think about walking through or moving forward, regardless, what I'm talking about is the fear that kind of stops you in your tracks. Like, is this going to work out? All the doubt that can come in, the things that could go wrong, nothing's guaranteed. Like, the logical side of taking action and as an adult, the responsibilities we have and the things that go along with it. So I think when I think about being fearless in a way, which I don't really believe people can not have any fear, but I go back to like little me in second grade. And I think this is where it all began, honestly. And I tell this story, but it is when my mom signed me up for a boys soccer league. She wanted me to be in sports, and I'm older, so there was not a requirement to have a girls team for soccer. So if you wanted to play soccer, you had to join the boys team. And so there were about 6 girls in the entire league, and I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be there because my mom never told me. This is a boys league. You're special. Be careful. Watch out for yourself. And she totally could have, right? And we've had things happen in our life that she could have totally been like, wrap me up in bubble wrap and like go out there. But no, she just said, you're on the soccer league. And I think that's where it all started is I didn't know there were any limitations on me. I didn't know I was different because no one told me I was or that I was supposed to act differently. So I really do thank my mom and my dad for that because I just went out and played. Now I got in a lot of, I'll just say, trouble because I would like really play and I would get taken down or I would fall or those types of things. And one time the referees told my mom that I needed to play more like a girl. And I just remember hearing it. And my mom was like, no, she's on the team. She's just going to play. And so it wasn't like go out and be careful. It was like go out and, do what you need to do to play soccer. And so I think I just never knew I was any different. And I think that's where it all started. Now, as an adult and as you grow up, I think you learn certain things and things become evident that, this is a place where I'm not normally. I know as an executive, there's certainly fewer women as I would continue to like move up in organizations and things like that. But I think again, I always felt I belonged there. So I just kept working hard to be there or to get to the next level that I wanted to be at.
What does living boldly mean for you today?
Yeah. I've learned a heck of a lot. I'll tell you that. And like, you learn good and you learn like what doesn't work and what, a lot through your failures. And when you fail, I think that for me is just a time of like what didn't work and how to break it down. And I think I've done it so many times. I have like almost a process for failures. Some are harder than others for sure. I think, but for me, living boldly has led to me having new opportunities for me to be able to explore parts of myself with regard to what I'm good at and what I've never tried before, as well as help others. And I think that's to me probably the biggest thing since leaving the corporate world that I've been able to do is just help people in a much different way than I was doing when I was helping people in my corporate role. Because I feel like we're here to help others, serve others, do good. And the more of that we can do, the better. And so I just think I've had a lot more opportunities because of the ability to be bold and to take the chances and to think through what's possible and to go for it.
What have you learned from being an entrepreneur, an author? What has been the biggest source of joy for you on this journey?
I think for me, there's a bit more freedom for me as an entrepreneur. Now, there's also more responsibility as well. So, like, it isn't like as if you're an entrepreneur, you're in charge of your time, you're in charge of what you can do, when you take off, all that. So, you do have that freedom from that perspective, which is great. But there's also responsibility. So, I think you learn kind of the pros and cons of each, right? I think in our environment today, I think we realize now that being in the corporate setting isn't as stable as we maybe thought it was 10 years ago, right? Because that was always what I was taught, is how I was raised. is, you should always work for a good organization and, have, 401k and, have your vacation days, all that stuff that goes along with it, health insurance, stability, all of that. But I think what we learned is that's not really stable these days. And, the same, you can get health insurance and you can take vacation and you can create a 401k as an entrepreneur as well. So I think for me, it was a learning because I had never even thought of being an entrepreneur because it never was something that was taught to me or even given to me as an option potentially. And that's okay. I think for me, I just started to figure that out at 48 when I left corporate world. So I think there's pros and cons to each. And, I don't diss either one. But I do think that for me as an entrepreneur, it gives me more freedom to create, to be innovative. I know who's in charge. I know who's responsible. So, like, if I have a complaint, I can bring it up with me. And I think that in itself can lead to just new possibilities, but you also have to make sure you don't burn yourself out. And I've done that a couple times. Like, I burn out in corporate world, which is how I ended up creating the bold framework. And I've definitely come really, really close 2 times, I think, now in the last 5 years. I'm going into year 6 of my business. And it has just been interesting for me to kind of get to those points again. And managing myself sometimes can be the hardest person to manage.
Yes, and it's interesting what you're touching upon because the statistics indicate that over 50% of entrepreneurs experience some sort of burnout or mental health issues just because of the pressure actually that we put on ourselves.
Yeah, it's
So
pressurized environment for sure. Not that corporate is not pressure, because that's certainly a space that it can be pretty pressurized. But yeah, it's just something to be aware of. And I think because I did burn out in the corporate world first, I kind of knew the signs and symptoms. And so that's really important for me just to realize them and to not ignore them and to take pause and to, like, okay, what should I be doing differently now? Or what can I reset? Or what do I need to stop doing? I think I got to a pace and a place where I was just adding, adding, adding. And now I'm really focused on, to hit year 6 of simplifying, being more still, and being softer. So, like, those are my three words as I go into 2020 and really thinking about those three S's.
what does softer mean for you? And especially how does that tie into the boldness?
So boldness doesn't always mean like hardcore and, like be resilient no matter what. I think for me, what softness means is just knowing that it's okay to kind of be gentle to yourself, be gentle, and appreciate the softer things in life. And everything doesn't have to be hard. And I
Mhm.
think we're taught a lot, specifically women, we hear the word resilience a lot. And on some days, I just don't want to be. I just want to be not having to fight anything or chase anything or prove anything. I just want to be. And to me, that's softness. And that could be just being outside. A big part of my life and my joy that I realize now that I missed a lot in the corporate world was just being outside. And, whether it's taking a walk or exercising or being with family or our dogs, which are a big part of our life, I just want to be outside more. So that's actually a big part of my softer side, is, not being on Zooms and not being, being in constant meetings and back to backs and those types of things. And so that's a softer side of life if I'm not doing those types of things.
What role does intuition play in your decision making?
It's a big part. Honestly, I listen to my gut a lot, and I think that's one of the things that I write about in my second book that a lot of people don't. They confuse kind of, especially fear, with, is that me? My gut's telling me I shouldn't do it, and but you have to really think about, is it intuition or your gut telling you should not do something, or is it actually just that it's not guaranteed or that it's scary? Because a lot of things that we do in life can lead to something really, really good, but at the same time there's this other side of the coin that but might not work out. And so for me, I think intuition is a big piece, and I definitely lean into that. I think I always have in my life, and I think it's something that as an entrepreneur that you definitely lean into more than you realize potentially.
For someone listening right now who feels stuck, too afraid to maybe take the next big step, one small thing they can do today to start acting more boldly.
Well, I always say to begin, begin, and it doesn't have to be a big step. I think that's one of the myths of being bold I write about in my first book. And one of them is, it has to be a leap. It has to be something big. It has to be loud. And that's the lovely, softer side of being bold is it doesn't have to be. A lot of my boldest moments are my quietest moments. Like I think I'm having a bold moment right now, this part of the year, as I plan for next year and kind of move into really the evolution of me, right? And it's quiet. It's what happens between my ears. It's how I speak to myself. It's what I'm thinking about and journaling about and contemplating or talking with, my team about. It's not anything that anybody needs to hear. It's just quieter. And so I think if you're scared right now or you feel stuck, I think understanding where your beliefs are with regard to taking that step and really understanding what might be holding you back. Like if you're not taking a step, the simple question you can ask yourself is, are you scared? And is it fear? And is it fear coming from a place of it won't be safe, I'm not sure, it's not guaranteed? Or is it an internal, my body's saying, I don't think that's the way to go? And then kind of delving deeper into that. So what's nice about the book, the first book, if you get into that book, it is actually going to walk you through process of kind of deconstructing your beliefs and understanding kind of what's true and what is something maybe that just possibly you think it's going to happen, but it's not going to. And that's something you get to cross out and say, it's not true. It's just something that's coming up for me. So looking at your beliefs and seeing kind of what might be holding you back. And first check is like, is it just because I'm scared that I'm not doing it? And I think you just don't want regret. And that's one thing just to work through first is that belief system piece.
And what is, from your experience, one of the beliefs that holds people back?
There's a list.
What are the top three that you've seen through all the people that
Okay,
you've
yeah,
worked with?
like I'll just talk about myself. So my number one is I'm not good enough. So, like let's say I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to go for something big, or I wanted to leave corporate. Well, I don't know if I'm good enough to actually have a business and people want to work with me. Like, where did that come from? Like, I don't even know like that psychological type of piece for me. Now through therapy and coaching, I've learned a lot about myself over the last 5 years, and for me it came from a space and place when my family lost my brother, and I really became someone who wanted to make everybody happy and fill all the unhappiness and sadness with smiles and do a good job, and no matter what I'm going to be A plus this and that. And so I think for me, I thought I wasn't good enough. I think what if it fails, might be the second thing that comes up for people, meaning like my success is determined on only accomplishing the goal. They don't look at success as the process itself. And so I think that can limit people from taking those steps. And number three, I think, is people think they don't belong there. They have a high dose of imposter syndrome potentially happening. And some people believe it and some people don't think it exists. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff this year about imposter syndrome, but it's real. And I think what it comes down to is like, do you believe have a seat at the table, or do you ask to, for someone to invite you, or do you think no one will ever invite you? Those types of things. And, realizing those are also connected with other things that might be going on with you. And again, it really hones in on your beliefs, which is why I love love for people to start with their belief system, because I think that's really going to be the filter for your actions. And so understanding your beliefs sooner than later is going to help you know to take action, or you're also going to know what's holding you back from taking action.
Very important indeed. And what's the boldest thing someone has done for you? And how did that experience shape how you see the world?
That's a really awesome question. No one's ever asked me that question. The first thing, and I don't want to cry, honestly. The first thing that I thought is that they loved me. It's a bold thing to love someone, to truly understand, to truly give grace, to truly forgive, because we're not perfect, those types of things. And that actually changed my life. So like for me, that to me is a really bold move when you love someone fully and you're
Mhm.
able to just be you. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And that's really my husband. So we've been together over 30 years. And so that to me, probably he's the boldest person I know from that perspective.
I love that. Do you have kids?
Yes, I have a daughter. So we co founded the company together in 2020. Yes, she is 28.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And Leigh, tell us about your upcoming book, The Bold Leader. And can you share with us what are some of the key foundations of bold leadership from your perspective?
Sure. Yeah. So taking what we learned in Be Bold today and then really taking it into the world of leadership and understanding kind of what are some of the tools I've used, what are some of the things I've done in my role as an entrepreneur. Like I talk about the D90, which is a way that I use consulting and something that I designed, which D is designed in 90 is 90 days. And then really, the basis of the book is all around the neuroscience of the one thing that I think I've seen from so many people, men and women over the last 5 years is fear. And so what's the neuroscience of fear? What's fear telling us? It's there for a reason. And how can we really break it down and translate it for ourselves when we're leading ourselves and we're leading others? Because a bold leader, you're first going to lead yourself, and then you're going to lead your team within your organization as well. So it's really digging into that and understanding once you know what it is and how to almost translate those moments of fear that can come up or indecision. It can pause and keep you in a certain space. You're able to then take action, and really your team, a bold team, is the team that's going to actually be able to communicate, be able to innovate, and be able to succeed better than any other team because there's just an openness and understanding of what to do and how to talk about it, including failure. And we talk a lot about that in the book. There's a whole chapter around the communication piece and understanding kind of how to create that space where teams can fail. And I think that's like permission to fail. No one wants you to fail. Your supervisor, your boss isn't like, go ahead and fail. But they're giving you the opportunity to lead, which means most likely something's not going to be guaranteed. For me, bold leadership, and I said this to my team, this is kind of the only time that I said the word bold in the corporate side, I would say, hey, we're going to take a big swing of bold here. And what I mean by that is it's not guaranteed. We do know, though, if we don't succeed, that we're going to learn something, right? We're going to be very pragmatic because I think being bold is a very thoughtful process. I think that's one of the myths is that it's not, that you don't think about it, you just do it. It's just something that you spontaneously decide. That spontaneity can be bold, but that's not to me what I mean when I'm talking about being a bold leader. What I'm talking about is being thoughtful and pragmatic and really looking at the if we do this then and then this will happen, those types of moments. And I've really led like that my entire career in corporate and now. And I think that's one of the keys to I think being innovative and creative is just being okay with it not working out. And okay meaning like I don't like set out to fail and I don't like celebrate it or get a cake out whenever every time something doesn't work out. But I mean, I know how to roll through it. And some of those failures, you roll a little slower, it hurts a little longer, but you do keep moving forward and you apply that. And I think that's the L of the bold framework: believe, own, learn, design. Learn is really applying using, growth mindset. What did I learn from what worked? What hasn't worked? Am I still doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? And a lot of the times, even though we know we shouldn't, we are doing that. And, like we called the same person. I'm like, well, they haven't responded, or she didn't do this, or she didn't do that. And like, well, what did I do differently this time? Or am I still doing the same thing over and over? And I think that's just one thing for everyone to understand is like, your beliefs really define, how you're going to move forward, how you're going to think, your ownership of what you should own or not own, and applying that learning to design what's next is such an important part of being a bold leader. So that's what I love about the second book is it integrates the framework into action, and it also shows through examples how to do that within organizations.
What role, in your view, does purpose play within organizations and in leadership?
I think it's at the heart. I think when we apply to a role, when we, look into do I want to work with this, organization or be part of this team? To me, the purpose for me is what it's all about, the purpose and the mission. And I don't think it's always about making money. And I'm not saying that financial stability isn't important, but I do think that you could love your job and you're not going to be a millionaire. I mean, that's never been my goal, is to go out and make millions and millions and millions. Now, would that be great? Sure. Yeah, I would love that. But it isn't the intention of my action. Like, I want my action to do good, to create solutions to problems that people have so that they can solve them for themselves, right? And I really want to be working for an organization that has a purpose that's focused on doing good, treating, people as human beings, and realizing that, that we are a 360-degree individual. We're not just professional and personal, and separate them when you can. It is like, I'm a human being, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I am a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. Like, there's so many things that we are, and we have so many labels that are put on us that we don't even pick. And so I think it's just important for organizations to have a purpose to do good. And I do think when it comes to being bold, doing good these days is bold. I What I mean by that is that it might not be understood all the time. It might not be what the masses want to do, or what they think is the thing to do. But I think working in an organization that has a purpose and a mission, to improve or to accelerate or to include or to do things differently that make the world a better place, is what it's all about.
What would be the three main ingredients for living more joyfully?
Well, first of all, get some sleep. So, like, I say that first, but I think one of the main ingredients for joy is wellness. And I don't mean like going to the spa, although that's a lovely thing to do. I think, I'm talking about really taking care of yourself from a sleep perspective, a nutrition perspective, a movement perspective, all the things that come to a well rounded wellness definition. And so I think that number one for me, that is a key piece to that. That's one of the pieces when I was burnt out that was completely out of alignment. I was not very well in that sense. And I think if you are really thinking about those things, it's going to help you be more joyful. I think the second thing is really alignment. And what I mean by alignment is, are you aligned with your values? And when I was burnt out, I was not. So family, relationships, health and wellness, creativity, those were things that were so important to me. And I was not doing any of those things. So I think alignment with your values, alignment with who you are. Sometimes I think we get into certain situations, whether it's being in a corporate setting or being in a group or a particular membership, and we start to assimilate to fit in because we think standing out or being bolder or being ourselves might be not accepted as much. But I think that's the boldest thing you can do, and the thing that's going to help you, be more joyful and be happier longer, is being you. It should be the easiest person to be. And if it's harder to be yourself, then I think I would assess, are you really aligned with the people and the groups and the organizations you're hanging out with? And I think the third piece to being joyful is really trying new things and being in a place of what I call, whether it's proactive or cyclical learning. Like, you're learning new things, you're doing things that maybe they're just not associated with any strategic plan. They're just something fun you want to try. One thing I did this year in 2025 is just start a list of things I'd love to learn to do. And it's not all associated with being an entrepreneur or sales or marketing or writing a book. Like, there's actually nothing about that on my list. I have like coffee art. I would love to like learn how to make coffee art. I would love to be able to learn another language. I mean, I learned Spanish in high school, but I lost it all. But I'd love to learn Italian, so like just thinking about things that kind of round you out more so than just things that are only connected to your career goals or your certain goals that people expect you to have, right? So create that things you want to learn list. And I think the other thing, like, I'm super excited right now about farming and flowers. So like, you're like, okay, that's the list, right? So like, and I think what's interesting is like little pieces and parts of you come alive when you're learning something new. You meet new people, you go to new places. So it starts this kind of, I say, wave of growth. And I think that's where joy comes from, is actually experiencing life in different levels, different ways, and different dimensions, maybe of what is normal or your day to day.
I love so much everything you have shared, and it's quite interesting because it brought up an article that I read a couple of years ago. And this also connects the dots with a lot of the research I've been doing around the brain that actually
Mhm.
highlights how important curiosity and novelty is for
Yeah,
maintaining a healthy brain.
right.
And that article that I was reading was really, really interesting because what they found out was that the older you get, the less new things you're likely going to be doing. So one of the challenges that they were basically encouraging the readers to do was whatever your age is, basically take that number and do as many new things as your age. So let's say you're 50, well, do in the year 50 new things that you've never done before.
I love that.
And basically, so as you're getting older, rather than declining mentally because you're not doing as many new
Mhm.
things or learning as much as before, you're actually continuously growing. And I find that very, very interesting, and maybe a challenge or something for you to think about, or
No,
for
I
our
love that.
listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're more interesting that way too. Like you
Yes.
said, you meet new people and like they're not the normal people that I meet from my healthcare world or from my coaching world or from, my author world. Like people who are growing flowers are not in that world. So like I'm new to them and they're new to me and then I'm a beginner again. And sometimes that does not feel good, I'll be honest, but it's like there's something about being a beginner that's like lower expectations from everybody on you and lower expectations on yourself. There should be, right? And
Yes.
I think there's just beauty in that. But you also bring a new set of eyes or ways to do things or maybe how you approach things to something for them as well. And like I said, coffee art, and my husband has a list too, and it's just they just seem very fun. Like one of the funnest things on his is like learning how to ice carve because I'm in New England. There's a lot of ice carving that happens. We have little festivals and the winter festivals and those types of things. So I mean, that's pretty fun. Like that's probably not something everybody can say they can do or that they've tried. So yeah, live life today and start it because there's nothing that's guaranteed for tomorrow. And I think I love the idea of whatever your age is, that's the number of things on your list. And it doesn't have to be something that everyone expects you to do, and you don't even have to share it with anyone if you don't want to. But I think it gets fun because you start putting things down. And I just started like thinking of things and just having a place to put them throughout the year and then start to cross them off, like baking bread and or cooking or baking or making something, out of, maybe you want to do something in a wood shop or something like that. There's just a lot of, I think, opportunity. And it could be also learning something new, like a language, or maybe seeing if you want to go back, and learn something. I don't mean always get a degree. You could just get a certificate, or you could just, take a class and not even have to get a grade. And so like these are the things that I think sometimes we limit ourselves from thinking about because it's like, oh, I'm spending time on something and how does that relate to a goal? And as much as I love goals and accomplishing things, I think sometimes we just do things for joy. We do things for curiosity. We do things for learning, and we do things for fun. Like, let's put more fun back into the world if we can, and let's make that list. I'm ready. So next year, I'll have 54 things on my list then. I'm ready.
When you think about the next chapter of your own bold journey, what's whispering to you right now?
Yeah, I think, I talked about those three S's. So, thinking about stillness and what that means and defining that, simplicity, and how I want really my priorities to be clear. Like simplicity's partner for me is clarity. So, like, not adding more things to the plate, but really honing in on what is giving me the most joy, what's having the highest impact for good and doing good. And then stillness around, like, it doesn't mean you're not moving. It just means you have time to appreciate the world around you. You can be present more, right? And then the softness side is, not having to always be resilient, that there's just some things in life that are working, that you don't have to overcome or hit a wall and get back up. And that, it's just like, I just want it to not feel so hard sometimes, and having spaces in your life where things don't feel hard. And yesterday I gave some advice to an author who's just incredible, and she's already incredible. So I wanted her to know, like, You're already successful, right? Like this book is going to be successful, but I just want you to know you are already successful. And then like I had this PS and the note and I said, here's some, you didn't ask for this, but I'm going to tell you like just some human side of being an author. It's a lot. You're launching, this a lot of pressure, back to backs, people looking at you, counting books and all that stuff. And one of the ones that I said is like, be around people who love you and don't want to talk about the book, because you just need to be, that's what I mean, that would be a softer space in her life. It's just like she can be and not have to prove or do or jump or go. It's just be. And so that to me is kind of where I'll be focusing in kind of in year 6 as we're coming into a new year, a new way to look at what we've done, and also to use those 3 S's to kind of set up what we'll be doing and how we'll be operating in 2026.
Any final words of wisdom that you may wish to share with our audience about living more boldly and more joyfully?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a person or so maybe out there that doesn't even think they're bold. And I think if you really sit down and think about what you define bold as and what that means, you are most likely doing things that no one else can do. You're most likely, you've been through something that no one else has. And you've been on a journey of strength and resilience and all the things that you've done to get where you are now. I think for me, as I love to hear someone say to me, it's like, give yourself some grace, be kind to yourself, and celebrate all that you've done. And sometimes we just don't look back and see kind of what we've overcome or what we've accomplished. We just keep going for the next thing. So my advice would be to pause, to celebrate yourself, and to realize you're already making bold moves, and to really lean into who you are and keep being bold.
While enjoying the journey.
Yes, for sure.
Wonderful, Leigh. Thank you so much. It's been an immense pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.